The advantages to Gemini. Inevitable recessions produce rampant unemployment by excluding primary workers from the labor force. That guarantees blocks or growth, not toss. Toward you covering employment ratio, if you stop the recession after raise small participation rate of 7 for an extended period. Private trend leaving since 1970 rising participation rates of women made up for the workers not achievement. Wage increasing expected kind of participation structure 6 times participation rates. Below recession level, the participation rate over rising, which I continue on for the labor force. Higher regulation, stable net decreasing country with higher participation of regulated labor. Markets more stable net social systems, Americans have stable jobs, some labor Americans voluntary. Voluntarily leaving the number of those not wanting to decline. Various labor supply conditions explain very little of this. Male was actually just larger. The kind of believe this is why sexual state. Do leave not find numbers. Leave to pursue education, field your house, social housing, conditions, work over there. Insufficient active remain, insufficient job, and jobs. Labor keeps wage growth low and encourages work to leave. So the second received. The male leaders go being something less. Segregation is inevitable. Could be long lasting. Trying the plan is the only solution to prevent economic shocks from escalating major crises. Meta 22 FTG influencing economic efficiencies, creating training opportunities, work for labor force. Their turn better resource allocations, act flexible labor markets, the worker shift from declining firms to enable the economy to respond to external shocks, which is promote the kind of manufacturing potency, FTG exposing work and training opportunities, UBI, increased poverty, inequality, do not create addiction to other factors contributing to poverty, increased productivity, high avoid inflation, FTG, accommodating the worker, when it comes to keep active in the labor force. Despite FTG average market reduction of regimes or employees negatively affected private section very high, these employees and target job creation is the only way to solve structural and proximate causes, declining the workforce participation while also stimulating aggregate demand, sufficient just results, so growth on us. 22, section needs to give us a problem, insufficient demand, probably severe growth, so good, the demand causes low investment, causes insufficient demand, labor organization, waste condition, inequality, insufficient spending, problems on the demographic waste of interest or robots, so recovery due to insufficient job creation, indignation, periodic remove operations, to rights, results, between segregation rates, remain depressed, BI grows, so like injection, and output, results of stagnation due to formative job creation, the first way out, fueling inflation and secondary stagnation is a crisis accelerant, causes extinction, Oppenheimer, important work, stagnation, environmental health, take define a future first, and market due to mention that globalization, imperative for our growth, pull to perceive global institution, reduce capacity, provide more meaningful innovation, pull the use power decline, relative to other states, growth through rates decline, stick stagnation, defining shots over times, rising according to the broad, the growth of order, different precisely, products, pull to collaboration, talks to leadership, ratio, collaboration, the globalization, represent geopolitical conflict, fuels increased popularity, world war committees, you can see general war, Korea, system on situation, preventive wars on edge, negative first time weak institution, conflicts between axles, no seeking, and the new conflict transition, how to call it up with the good planet, acquiring new states, pull the first American, movement to the conflict, economy station, trying to apply power leverage, the companies have actual judgment, jobless, but nation, conflicts, primitive region, fair, screen powers, political powers, actually preemptively increase conflict, extension, security, here, India, China, each way, while we could for regional governments, to Saudi, UN, access, Russia, competition, use, conflicts, control, key, extending arms, collapse of unipolarity, causes extinction via transition wars, Beckley, 18 wars, politics, 16 cases of Russia, Challenge 12, and Carnage Day, pattern is clear, hydrogen bombs, work out, show forward, including put on hold this, put on hold wars to the curb, and not have the global storage generation length of the hydrogen bomb, reproduction, wars, killings, and budget of the Armageddon, World War III, extinction, but not sure the possibility since he was not future war, not the what is no reason than ever in wars that did severe civil wars, the top 30% of the economy quadruple has quadrupled the human southern global to account as on it, and the force not dramatic lines, better explained by geopolitics to the sociological facility, no political democracy, commerce, scheme, limit conflict, face with over 4 years, but by the country. Decided to work with the American Order War was unthinkable. Skip that card. Great power war causes extinction. Clear. 21 extinction of chemical collapse of permanent growth. Destroy species cause unimaginable suffering. Extinction response, but for terms of high to the family, less power projects. As response to raising liberty, amount of effects that's another rare regime of football, including Cold War, contagious, dangerous, tech cars, mechanic, cooperation, mechanic, other extension, president, victory, which I could lock itself up with eyes to work. Could leave us vulnerable, reading that the US has done some bad things in the past, insufficient to project the entire structure of hegemony as a whole. First, their studies discount the structural suggestions of hegemony, which sort of outweigh large entities, prove that hegemony ensures peace and prosperity. Kane, 19 hegemony poorly understood, focused on confident words across preponderance of cases where the forces of imperial peacefully based apology focused on the keys of the life, essentially Afghanistan, Iraq, and contradicted negligible attention to given legend create a unique way is the US and empire against motivate whether enough close to yourself to the US, educated characteristics of empire time, limiting the war where the order was 16th, 21st century Philippine nation states, there was new national power, altruism, as supervised from the US for human rights, creating reference to the German Imperial and the isolation of the terms while the US world and Korea failed the imperial test, national one Japan, Japan, judging after 3 quarters US women's not mentioned military, Taiwan and Kuwait are all voluntary alliances for the British to hold after domination to be easy, 1 percent countries not going to choose suffering from economic plan, the British was war, countries that hosted troops and fastest countries that experience lots of declines, child mortality, increase in uncertainty, growth, infrastructure, improvements, and equivocally beneficial perception, dominated by bombs, Iraqi cities, yet online demonstration, Russia, human prosperity, body is going to bold, the American strategies benefit the world, fostering peace and unrest and prosperity. The question is not whether the US is forced to discretion, whether it can be sustained, and only the alternative is a Chinese-led world order to its in Chapter 20, should be operating under a signature that would be better if the US able to achieve the range of 2000 destroying waste over having the rights of human rights, better education, health, wealth, and ammo, actually, leadership, and Global conversations, corporate up to deficit competition, out to the fighting, China, seeks publication, authoritarian hosting rights to uses for support for states and threats, massive threat of IP, service warning for Chinese that order, and that's far worse. Child 22, Chinese states becoming fast one authorities, so welcome back to this country to come to problems, and meet problems, to this surveying, teams, studies, illegal squad, very call the country, top hearing, surveillance, super strong, looking racial, racism, nationalism, favoring lives, and political material expansion, propagating cause, Chinese glorious history, all willing, past human power, Chinese, not good Germany's past, she has clear advances, agenda, 20% detected, not to provide the Chinese surveillance capabilities, devices, government, human facial recognition, secure work, to track mobile for believe people, the shape of coordination, control, check messages, basically unity, liberty, government, dimension, make cause with the corporate fashion, fashion, the proceedings, some provisions, mackies, well advanced, AFF, behaviors, as well, GBTQ, video systems, private spheres, boost, mail, for really, activity, activities, having hot Chinese sensitive mass race against minorities, citizens for birth, including force, civilization, and establishment of hundreds of thousands of production camp, just attention of ethnic and religious minorities. Thus, the plan of the United States federal government should increase risk for redistribution in the United States by adopting a federal job security plan, avoids all negative economic effects of economic stipulations, improve rate 18, economic stipulations for a 10-year period, release approval data to compare against based on stipulation percent how the economy budget and federal where on the side of some subsidy, improve these fair world stipulation generate, forming the district water center, offering the coming on 1.5 million record leave the labor force, make welcome bitch to be half of the rest of minimum wage, impacting the vision, distributed impact, peak side points, 4 percentage points, fail to fall 2.09 percentage points, copies of high wages, tax rate rises, so increase the budget deficit, modest budgetary impacts, 30% of GDP, reduction in poverty, carbon incarceration, but impact on budget for being far less cost of poverty, favor, 500 state and respecting good would decline, tax revenues would rise, debating nuclear risk is good, 13, making students will have less experience, born after Cold War, but who do not understand moments, they're part of the world in international orders, how many the program issues in the regions, the possibility of policies, assume today's public doesn't care if they have policy to change the education, some moments can have a larger effect, creating a public engage and how leaders accountable for your policy to reduce especially the war students are next exposure could be used for preparation and ready to themselves to solving problems. So is Joe 21 public debate is useful for community info and pervasive of numbers students wise students are leaders between good and bad arguments. So people are soldiers interested in defining everything I believe from threats drawn in from flash vegetation showing tricks against scholars so you are students to read different dead psychologies of the state to develop mastering skills competence speaking makes sense of just working with you to read audience reactions to hear other words and respond 21,000 fun debates just with outcomes including CTG minorities debaters more likely to graduate less likely to draw on improve 17 and then analysis suggests debates false critical thinking self single aspiration building confidence using cultural awareness seeking better debates and 20 hours of prep each week debates get more experience and 1 year of all states while debate offers advantages of writing to draw motivating students to win through debate Friday games for education makes students more invested to switch sides is crucial to deflect competition and any alternative is offered students to consider both sides before second teams forces students to develop true offensive education disagree prior penetrating filter bubbles and security logic is good look 17 although security deeply disputed how necessary to preserve the preservation of peace, security, connection, and peace, and equal as well, transform conditions to protect and better power. On the other hand, security, peace, and entitlement humans to social peace protection from volunteer abuse to diversity rights and social and justice, leadership, risk, social family disease, connection, positive peace. Mark the positive peace.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you unconditionally advocate for the plan?
What do you mean unconditionally?
Like, do you believe in the plan and maybe you do it in the real world?
Well, we think it's the job of the negative to disprove the plan. As of the 1AC, we think that the impacts presented are like true, but we think that the negative can contest those.
Sure.
Like
That doesn't answer my question. Would you advocate for the plan in the real world?
We have not gone out and gone to Congress and said that we should do
Sure.
it.
How long does it take from the 1EC's performance until we save the first life?
You mean save the first life?
Like, how long does it take from you reading the 1EC before someone's life gets saved from you reading the 1EC?
I think that's like an untenable burden. I think we've read an affirmative, we've read a plan, and we think the plan is a good idea. We think if
You've
the
read
plan,
a part that says debating nuclear risk is good because it trains people to be better policymakers and save people's lives.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm wondering when does those lives
The
start getting
Bernstein
saved?
18 evidence is not about how people perceive nuclear weapons, but having knowledge on nuclear
What do
weapons
you do with
and
that
how
knowledge if you just say the 1EC is a good idea?
No, this evidence speaks to that. It says that having the knowledge itself allows people to politically participate, has
Sure,
the
so
ability
how
to
does the 1EC
also,
meeting
the
cause
Bernstein evidence,
political
the Bernstein
participation?
evidence, the bottom of it says sort of that students are the next politicians, scientists, journalists, and that they will inevitably be tasked with addressing like sort of nuclear issues in their career. So it's an even if claim. Even if you were right, we sort of read evidence that speaks to this and says that learning about nuclear weapons sort of can have a decisive impact. This is a line from the card. It says that it has a decisive
Okay,
impact on the
that's
career
fine.
trajectory and inspires them to
The Germany
dedicate
advantage,
themselves to solve
why is it good to ignore past instances of violence?
the hedge advantage.
Sure.
It's sort of like it's like even if you win that, like, there have been some past instances of violence, discounting the structure as a whole is bad, because overall, sort of large end studies have proven that those are outliers,
Sure,
and
you
that
just
generally
ignored, like,
hegemony is
instances
good.
of violence. How does your metric of just like ignoring
Okay.
insidious forms of violence
A
prove
couple-
that it's good when you just say ignore the bad stuff?
Sure,
ignore the
sure.
good stuff?
We're not saying that the US has never done anything bad. We're saying that a couple things. First is that China and Russia are worse, which is the Chan evidence. Second is the Kane evidence, which indicates that just as many examples, like 3/4 of the examples are positive ones where the US has impacted like
Sure.
the Human
And,
Development
like,
Index,
other
the child
probably, like,
mortality rate.
3/4. Like there's
No,
probably
no,
like 100
it's not
more
other
examples.
3/4, it's other 25%.
Yeah, it's
Sure,
certain
no,
numbers.
whatever. Like there's probably like another like 500 examples that are just erased, but that's fine.
500.
The zoo evidence says that debate is good and cites stuff like SAT scores and ACT scores. How does that mean that debaters, like debate makes students smarter rather than smarter debaters or smarter students going into debate?
Well, okay, so the SAT and like GPAs are referring to minority students, but overall, this evidence is speaking to the ability of debate to train like skills.
Sure. Let's talk about minority debaters. Like empirically, they've usually engaged in K debate. How does that make policy debate uniquely key for your offense?
Sure, this is, yeah.
Can we steal some film paper by chance?
Yeah,
I'll just-
It's okay, appreciate it.
And now let's get some more for the kids.
Oh, yeah, I forgot.
It's time. I'm gonna need it. Okay, use your stand.
yeah. It's like it's hard to explain, but you're about as tall as me, so.
Okay.
Is this
Yeah. Yeah, one off is.
that makes sense.
Give me 1 second.
Okay, I got it.
I need to.
Okay. Okay, I'll be good. Everyone good?
Yeah.
Debate is structured by an arc of redemption built around the axis of black subjugation. Responses to the resolutional question prefigure the argument of protocols that crowd out the government of suffering that can speak to the violence that repetitiously destroys black being the rhetorical form of the 1EC Simon's energy and modalities humanist redress that are parasitic on black suffering voters since 16. The power balance of the question is the greatest power. The way the question is posed in the world debate cannot be reconciled with Afro-pessimism. The question always posed in arc of redemption assumes the instance of blending to equilibrium. To this equilibrium, the remove the tripartite narrative is a mood of redemption. Afro-pessimism is not an offering of historical redemption, restoration, embodying need redress of the historical structure of debate. The demand for debate, the protocols are ideologically aligned in order for black suffering to be part of the debate question. It must have to go through a structural adjustment to look like the suffering of some other group. Yet narratives of real or imagined redemption structure on the question of how to relive the suffering didn't happen before. But with respect to blacks, you cannot tell the story of the invasion before the destruction. So without that, you have to think of repetition as opposed to redemption. And their theory of the world is wrong and racist. Every time you hear St. Mark say hegemony, you should think whiteness. It relies on Western conceptions and sovereignty, racializes depictions of anarchy, absent Western values, and assumes a white, rational, neoliberal subject at the core of decision making. This propagates both instability and imperialism through a colloquially liberal restraint. But where elective is the link that attempts to mystify Rhodes' racist origins as nothing more than an upgraded insufficiency and continuous epistemology of white ignorance. You should overcorrect against their enormous white privilege that dominates their scholarship and refuse framework arguments that weigh the plan as a form of white silencing of critique. Hobson 22. Liberal, constructive, progressive politics prevent racism, evaporates race scholars, spread to a recurring dark cycle of racial control, racial histories, polymorphous efforts to abolish slavery, brought about new rules of the game, mercy preservation, maintained through white privilege, maintained the groundhogging cycle, and its horrific moments of black victory being rolled back with white backlash, and IRS came to embrace value-free and positivistic posture too, which racial hatred will have to be exercised, but the reality saw creation of new brave worldview, explicit racism replaced by subliminal cultural racism, monoism, as Western academics distance themselves from the racist joke reprieve from them in white terms, and white supremacy was replaced by Western universalism, Western market economic standard was replaced by developed versus undeveloped barbaric oriental despotism morph into rogue state savage anarchies morph into failed states imperial intervention was replaced by the civilizing mission of U.S. hegemony. The demise of scientific racism not be the end of racist thinking and scholarly discourse higher. Theories often were non-racist, massive person racist move is whitewashes racism and world politics and complemented by the second which higher advance of racist analysis of the political economy that appears to be neutral, peace and stability possible because racist decision by the super is outsourced toward the global south and organization of peace and this narrow bonds of preserve free the third world continuing starting in 1878 with the Congress that divided Africa and the cost benefit calculus depends on the consumption of black vitality and flesh a spectacular spectacle for racialized calculus refuse to give them a pat on the back for playing a game that's indebted to endless necropolitical elimination of black bodies. That's good in 19. Racialized splitting produces by subjectivity to the enslaved body captor, render as flesh matter, abducted, processed, ship, raped, whipped, broken, lacerated upon it, nominal bonds between parents and children, annihilating the possibility of maternal reproductive connection, and even after the way that immiserated, terrorized, differentially household employed, medicalized, educated, surveilled, police, judge, incarcerated, expendable, and killable black bodies have been produced as a vibrant, intelligible, spectacle, seemingly bodiless, affective, resource wide, racializing, consumerist, calculus, choking representations of slavery and sex, sexualized, violated black body, enjoyed in the excess of embodied reaction of hardened streaks, and both a testament to horrific violence, yet also libidinally invested blackness is prior to ontology such that is not stops attending how matter is remained and saturated with the bioeconomic conception of being the affirmative institutes of discursive devalorization of non-Western being through the dichotomization of informal labor. This mistakes climate change, inequality, and social struggles that are all part of products of a broader anti-black paradigm of the Act's job security that prescribes a Darwinian obligation for human being as labor as fulfillment. That's Gagnian 7. The shift of our present conception in the one that places the African descent in a global transracial category, homeless jobless from the lives of the other, has to be their cultural shift, not economic one, until such opportunities both for economic inequalities, labor policies, race, gender, environmental warning, resource movement, the status quo disorder, produce the class where system where jobless youth to be, no humans involved in that reproduce at the deepest level of cognition, calling the question present course of purely biological definition of what is to be human, devalorization of blackness functions that encoding our present biocentric statement of the human, the instituting of the human is enacted by our discipline subjective experience with the neural process and origin of the species made our knowledge of reality, our definition of what is to be human, according to the Western versus human authority, a secular human process that be first discourse what it means to economic conception, the human produced and reproduced by academic disciplines, economic apparatus, the function of identity, not the other way around. We cannot see because we are in and we need to get outside of it in order to see how it works. And the alternative is active passivity, the alternative is radical negativity, refuses questions of political feasibility and liberal choice in favor of changing the coordinates of politics so as opposed to demand in excess of any present imagination. Afro-pessimism is an ethics of rule which insists on abolition as a foundation for ending the world. Barber Sexton 17. We can approach the only other experience of our mutual weakness and intensification of negativity is thinking. Seriously, there's no such thing as positive aggressive thing, only a negative defensive one is not way to think about violence and different to hope and unmotivated by irreducible dialectical love and hate the violence that cannot take the way to constant degradation, negativity is inseparable from the end, humility, limiting cement is expectation, realization, investment, linear temporality, question posed by blackness seem to emerge as time itself interminably, the seemingly universalizing universality, interminable time of meaningless and personal dying all is after that is action is retroaction, why in our political and intellectual circle all concerned of activity, why worry fear about being passive individually and collective, the tension between active passive states rise, the ground for symbolic and material production of differences of race, gender, sexuality, class, phenomenology, enable action, but rather decision, turn right or disappear, no decision can be made within the terms of the fourth choice, rather, at the heart passivity should be the skin of politics, without passivity there's negative capabilities and any creative imagination, chaotic imagination, generates the promise of the new world and encouraging could be the desperate demand to do something harder you try to attain it, the more it evades you difficulties arising from abandonment, negative enthusiasm for the affirmative end. The one he sees harms and contingent on aberrations that spur subjective vertigo for human because unlike the slave they're not ontologically condemned to objective vertigo, a life that's constituted by disorientation and dispossession, that's Wilderson 11. Subjective vertigo, vertigo of event, objective vertigo, the life constituted by disorientation rather than the life interrupted by disorientation. Black is a sentiment of non-human being. Black and the humans, disparate relationship, violence at the heart of this village, a corporation analogy. The human suffers contingent violence, black feels some presumption of violence is paradigmatic necessity, not just a performing contingency to be substituted and displaced by violence and grip simultaneously, subjective and objective vertigo. Case. Compulsive repetition of doomsday scenarios to project hegemony in precarious times is wedded to a performance of apocalyptic manhood. That's a performance of anti-black violence. Kelly 20. One overarching lesson of American doomsday culture is the future is inevitable, both hegemonic white masculinity and aggression. Competitiveness remains necessary. The repetitive scenario planning world is made to distribute the illusion of sense of control, the sense of future apocalyptic gives you the access to marginalized survival rituals, properties with intensive blends of mainstreaming doomsday property figures in the rhetoric of white male victimhood of precarious politics at times limiting apocalypse display masculine traits of the antidote for masculine society. Apocalyptic manhood is now constituted through rhetoric to confirm the necessity of masculine skills. Paranoids contributed surge in hypermasculine mass violence. Feelings of white male alienation translate to militaristic preparation to end. Scenario analysis justifies continual preemptive fourth generation intervention in global war makes conflict and bonds structurally inevitable. That's Carr and 10. Military produced reports that think the unbelievable, imagining the threats to the security of West prediction that military futures provide justification for endless war against that may never exist. Military sovereignty and just to study the possible future of the Rand Corporation conducting games with simulation to predict the outcome of nuclear conventional military confrontation. Military futurism spread into private sector corporate use of scenario planning machine. Military and corporate futurism continue. The military and private sectors share the concern for international development, U.S. national security and capitalist world economy companies specializing in scenario planning and risk management work with companies in future scenario analysis and fourth generation warfare is fueled by fragility and instability. The worst futures perceived to be more dark visions even disturb
to justify military interventions, warfare, and surveillance. Send this out after. You should move beyond the 1AC veil of falsity in favor of the voice of the science, debates and forum for testing that only we can solve. That's Ahmed 22. Atrocities committed against the marginalized population used to validate collective punishment. Both sides are racist, capitalist, Russia, NATO, or against too many things. The goal of this is to expose their rationality, dominant discourse, exposing their universal effect on global hegemony. Both use peoples to claim to protect us disposable war materials. This is why hegemony must take place. All they need to explain the potential consequences of policies that home sanctions most severely affect the poor and global apartheid regime has been normalized in the liberal rule of democracy, ideologically, politically, historically, and they've long done the same thing. Murders have been committed in the name of freedom. And global overstretch of American hegemony makes collapse inevitable. Routine is 21. The European projected under the international organization law norms premised on U.S. power. The world is failing while the U.S. no longer needs an undisputed hegemony. The jury has system of best addressing the pandemic crisis, bonding question about management of global challenges, and American foreign policy framed the expansion of establishment of liberal global order, American hegemony, moral duty, unilateral intervention to remake the world in the image of the United States pathologies, threatening survival, the neurological belief that the end of American hegemony, drug force contains the ability to negotiate reality, complex conflicts, and reduce individual actors and difficult to compare the outcomes that fought in Chinese absence during its have been rise of Chinese advantage, then American leaders have refused a realist out with idealistic mission and rise of China as the product of such idealistic worldview. Kagan argues that Americans must accept the role of lagging, and Porter observed that pursuit of hegemony has seen the United States overstretch itself, take on unsustainable debt, erode the image abroad, militarized policing at home, enable the rise of China, foster political radicalism without idealistic universalism.
Universalism?
Idealistic universalism.
Oh,
Yeah.
ascendant part. Actually, let me know when you get it. I'm just fine. Idealistic.
That's bad.
Okay, I'm good.
Right, Matthew?
Yep.
Okay. Why are African Americans socially?
Yeah, the Wilderson and the Goodman evidence gives multiple warrants. First is gratuitous violence beyond any justifiable thing, like black people being shot after already being dead. Second is natal alienation. Black people were taken as Africans onto slave ships and came out as simply black people, severing any sort of ties
Why did
to
that happen?
culture.
Why did
or,
this happen?
Yeah,
because
sure.
blackness is ontological, and there's always like
Yeah.
exercise.
Are you asking why natal alienation happened?
Yeah, sure.
Because they lost the cultural ties to Africa, like the structural adjustment that slavery enforced on black people caused them to lose all those cultural ties, which means they were a blank slate that was only defined by their tying to like the master.
Yeah,
and, like,
so this,
slavery.
I kind of get that, but like, sort of, let's take your example about like, police shooting African Americans sort of after they've already died. I guess, why does that happen?
It's because of a libidinal fear of like
Okay.
black epidermal schema, which is like
So what it,
black flesh.
so this libidinal economy stuff, am I correct in saying you have to win that psychoanalysis is true? to win?
So we're gonna cite biological studies that go above psychoanalysis. We think that biology is a good metric because it's scientific and we
Yeah,
incorporate
okay.
us, so
I-
we like indict a
We
lot
probably
of-
agree, but I guess libidinal economy, sort of, why is it true then?
Yeah, so we cite biological studies.
As of the one in Cedar aren't in, right?
Sure,
Yeah, so
there's
there's-
several parts.
Yes, the Goodman card describes pornotroping, i.e. people depict like suffering out there and pretend to relieve it. That sort of gives a libidinal gratification of seeing the black body suffer.
Okay.
It's like a white man on a couch donating $5 to Africa and pretending he's not racist. You get like gratification from seeing bodies suffer and pretending to do stuff yourself. And we'll pull quotes in the 2 and see about how what he
The
sees
the alternative, does it do anything out there? Was it?
Yeah, the alternative is like a refusal of the demand to do something. Like that question is exactly what we're critiquing, the idea that something
Yeah.
must constantly be done, there must be a
So
political
nothing out
action
there,
for something.
nothing out there, right?
Yeah, it's a demand in excess
Yeah,
of anything.
that's all I needed to hear. I guess, cost benefit calculations, what are they?
Shit.
Yeah, sure. So the pornotroping link, which is the Goodman evidence, says that trying to weigh the impacts of the plan causes pornotroping because we're taking material investments in like Black Death from out there.
How have
to
we
get sent out.
materially invested in Black Death?
Yeah.
When you see Cossack's first question was, we do not believe in the plan, which means
I
that
never said that.
you basically said something. along the same
Basically,
lines.
along the same line. Okay. I guess you've sort of said, on case, the car evidence says scenario analysis justifies sort of fourth generation intervention, but it's about like the Rand Corporation.
Yeah,
Rand
it's like
Corporation
scenario
is
planning was
scenario
invented by the Rand Corporation.
No, but
the very
the
idea of
impacts are
planning
about like
impossible.
the Rand Corporation using scenario planning. I'm confused how that's applicable to
Well, two
debaters
things.
scenario planning.
Yeah,
First,
you
like
have
you
guns,
made arguments
yeah.
about the military and like hegemony. Like I don't know how you can like
You
know
cannot
about
know
this.
links out of like military scenario planning when you read ahead, yeah.
Okay, time works.
last three cards right now.
Just open this. Just the cheese.
Yes, they did not actually read the turn.
Actually, I think I got it. I'll start with yeah.
Oh, you said.
Yeah, it's not good.
The owner's case, okay.
Can you second it down? Okay. Good.
Fat waste is wrong. Prolonged stagnation decimates the economic superiority at the base of America's power, causes every global hotspot to blow up and locks in a host of interlocking threats, including pandemics, terror, prolif, and cyber attacks that are impossible to solve. Absent sustained American engagement, the fat waste evidence is too far in the past. From before COVID, it doesn't assume the Oppenheimer evidence says the next recession would cause immediate decline, would cause extinction. Extinction outweighs versus jurisdiction. It collapses an agency and causes preventable suffering and death for billions and denied positive value for trillions of future generations. Second, turns decay life is a precondition for any ethical frame. Any alternative system for of value rely on the prioritization of certain groups and invariably justifies genocide matter. Even more if the plan never happens. Debates that center nuclear risk mobilize citizens over the long run to elect leaders that reduce the chance of nuclear conflict. Thus, Bernstein declared that China impact one conceded that even without extinction, a Chinese-led world order greenlights broad surveillance to ethnic conflict against minorities, which turns indicate that the China evidence scenario planning is valuable. You can group Kelly and Carr. The critiques are wrong and apply back to them. Scobie can tell 20 every policy is a prediction, particularly geopolitics, in which poorly understood make decisions based on simplistic extrapolation scenario planning and forecasting. This method provides a range of future updates that imagine future confronted with threats prepared in the future through experiments. Scenarios make up for lack of example. They does into rigorous scenario planning involve identifying uncertainties, could deal situations, scenarios meant to be provocative, challenging, essentially given the kind of flexibility which feature is most likely probabilistic. Forecasting the keys more accurate geopolitical forecasts train them to think probabilistically. They transmute uncertainty towards speaking to the future. The developing countries allowing smarter bets to question culture breakdown. Futures question precise enough to question the yield the greatest information to decrease sensitivity, confirmation bias, attack possibilities, the likelihood of advanced early warning system event. Do not need to transfer their mesh well. Scenario planners need not clash with forecaster transferring long-term and concrete. Short-term leaders can understand and act up to save danger to its national security, country prosperity, security, dependent probability of anticipating use protection law. Now, 22 evidence is wrong.
strong, rejecting NATO and the world under Russia's and China's oppressive rule regime. 20 great state power dropping for military and economic influence. America is not allowing Putin to restore totalitarian principles of policy. Devastation of Russian people with hundreds of billions of dollars critique. No bureaucratic apparatus. The Chinese government brutal police enforcement, deploying consultation and ethics, and culture journalists. We need a military powerful enough to stand against Russia and China would never let position on America make it possible for Russia, Chinese control of extraction in Africa, top partners state that it's sustainable that we need NATO costing our military geopolitical. The enemies expand those to the recipe for enslavement. The hedge overstretched stuff. They don't have an impact to this because they didn't read one sustainability. What the AFF makes a sustainable relative GDP growth solves all sustainability issues, which is the Oppenheimer evidence and hedge is sustainable. Heikenberg 22 the U.S. narrative of declining North Korean influences that will make the U.S. the dominant President Royal rise of British and liberalism in U.S. power. Draws an institution and values woven in a fabric of modernity and multifaceted political information. U.S. upholds international order, protects the interests of liberal democracy. Russia and China build order to protect the authoritarian appeal of capacity of alliances. Make an indispensable large countries within the order of taking the U.S. remaining active U.S. that provides the war between the anarchy, the overruling hierarchy of the U.S. benefits geography and trajectory of political development and mobilized democracy. K. Way the 1AC versus expendable alternative to status quo links must be unique and the alternative solvent to impact versus fairness, arbitrary and self-serving rules in the ballot, jettison all prep and offense shifting goalposts and next competitive equity comes first as we all rely upon it and fairness is statistically significant. Glow Keshki 22 experience of procedural fairness, positive core academic efficiency, dedication of person and negative and total exhaustion and cynicism took into account ultimately control of democracy and group identification procedural favorment, significant positive predicted academic education, negatively predicted academic burnout, more likely acceptance and effectively a direct effect of the experience of procedural justice with positive and significant experience of procedural fairness, distributed fairness, experience of procedural fairness was not significantly predicted academic burnout. Second is clash forces and content agnostic skills through third and fourth level testing enables deeper compensation and breakdown. Documenting develop the research skills necessary to reach education conclusion. In terms the K, if hegemony is bad, debating specific policies surrounding it is important. Teaching students how to navigate issues such as power back into transition wars is far more effective than simply wishing away hedge with the ballot. Third is the odd debate doesn't shape subjectivity but iterative testing, and in the long run produces content agnostic skills and pushes students towards self-improvement that helps them navigate institutions. That's the Zhao of the perm. Do the AFF and all non-mutually exclusive parts of the counterplan. Perm, do both, and perm, do the AFF and then the alternative. The theory is wrong, but even if we won none of these warrants, you should still air AFF against structural conditions that are impossible to prove. First, AFF for pessimism fails. Dawson 21 AFF for pessimism, hard global system defined by active left and rejects this natural politics and monetization of peoples in African. This time is characterized as oppression and non-African subdontological secondary experience of peoples in the U.S. Africa. Overestimated continuity, some black spirit, underestimated achievement of black freedom, circles of race, often never struggle black actively achieve victories for black liberation will stand 6 and fatally followed account makes it impossible any accurate account of black person. Second, but the instances of violence they cite are best deconstructed through policy vote. 13, anti-black person created expression policy towards the impulsive dismantled through public policy reason created by policy will only be destroyed by policy. Cut the card is destroyed by policy. Third, in the social death, it's wrong with 17, during the anti-black humanity of disparate with like social black people as counter with rehumanization, termination, existence, the policy of new democratic the institution enable preservation of the community, not to confuse solution of powerful with loose experience if we did meditate special death, but safe work to create social life. Cut the card as social life, and the best studies disprove ontological biases actually. Psychoanalysis are wrong-headed. 15, racism not an integral part of the human psyche, social identity, after a comprehend racism by birth in the priority structure team. To fail collective solution, not permanent feature of the mind, confuse identity and unilateral liberation is law of racism. Can it be solved by a psychological level? The Hudson card is wrong, Iris reflexive right. 15, the choice of not space and impact the informed decision making brothers scholarship for policy for more depth and viability, academic build on work, predict outcome forecasting less and certainty, danger not appreciating importance of records, severe research design quality, intuitive techniques for crafting policy being necessary batteries to make for bad policy technical methods, improve causal and fluid solve, improve upon policy making and incorporate found in microfan gender empowerment, foreign aid lists on the line of policy negative accusation, nutritional recommendation, air quality, technical competence, leaders, directly on finance right recommendation, academic potential, make real world contribution to debate, research is the only way to evaluate them effectively. And even if we're wrong, other countries believe it, which means Russia, China, etc. all believe it, which means the alternative, one, the alternative doesn't solve, B, only the plan can solve. The gain evidence is wrong, labor is voluntary. This is the link to the status quo, not the plan, and the FGD originated in Black scholarship base. 1980 Alexander first the conference recommending government job guarantee a number of plus May 2020 election for the program to adjust the number of funding, including involuntary employment, low compensation level of labor market discrimination ideas often credited human. Miss the FDR is that the job guarantee and national priority after World War II, the government achieved full employment, but having many economies that created jobs through public works program. Cut the card there. Progress is possible. A is loving through Virginia, Livingston, 17 marking more than a factual creates a growth and intermittent concept with certain says high to learn, said American America became more accepting of races than ethnicity. The share has more tripled. And B is VRA mental 19. The VRA outlet discriminating policy for our turn out to Americans north by 59%. African Americans voted at higher rates than whites in 2012, the extent to which individuals recognize their full members of the wider community. C is the Fair Housing Act and redlining into real estate discrimination based on race. D is Fair Sentencing Act, reduce racially charged narcotic sentences. Winning any of these examples disprove their theory, but the reverse is not true because they still have to explain the after Wilson card at the bottom. Non-black Afro-pessimism is a vetting issue. King Wilson 20 non-black folks are taking have Afro-pessimism. Guys, if I'm doing the political work, is posing anti-black, but they're doing their work, theorizing black death and flesh in order to make it more valuable as builders and sets like body black people can non-black people just play with black and fetishizing and walling and blackness. Go back to go back to the Wilkinson card. Ontological biases are wrong to Carl and Babel 15. No research confirmed correlation-based preferences, Trump-based preferences, some active placement diminished automatic racial bias, some regional response to team members for other race, just a particular person could be flexible. So no relation between groups response to how groups members can shape stereotypes and tempered with information, with flexible nature, intergroup relation offered to be optimistic about potential.
Was this a car and then the low card and the dog?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, alright, good. Okay, first, the Dawson evidence, how does pessimism homogenize black experiences?
The Dawson evidence?
Yeah.
So this talks about how like certain groups would like prefer like both policy like implementation, but also it says like
Wait,
the,
where
your
does it
theory
say
applies.
that Afro-pessimists like policy implementation?
Yeah, well, it says that like policy implementation isn't bad for certain
It
groups.
does not
like
say
it
that.
says
It's talking about
it says
Witterson and Sexton.
homogenization. Well, okay, sure. It says that like the critique homogenizes African peoples into.
Yeah, I'm
like,
asking
because-
how, like that was my question. What's the warrant?
Because
What-
you've sort of totalized sort of the progress debate, you've totalized the
Wait, so we
nature
said progress impossible, therefore all black people are the same. Is that
No, the bottom of the evidence is explicit. It says that like the critique underemphasizes the like the struggles or the like
underemphasizes struggles, great. Alright, the
The
writer
achievements of those
evidence,
struggles.
it's from a blog called War on the Rocks. Why should we trust it saying IR is reflexive?
well the place it comes from is irrelevant. It's
Why is that
citing
irrelevant?
studies.
If it's literally created to promote
It's citing
national
studies
security
and
IR.
empirics where IR has been used in important ways. The fact that it has changed your evidence is
Okay, what
the
are
Hobson
some-
evidence is citing studies from the 50s, which
Well, yeah,
obviously
IR's been around, okay, what studies and empirics does it cite then?
what it's cites like here,
It just says IR is like kinda cool and could help foreign aid. I don't see the empirical examples in this
yeah,
part.
it talks about like certain instances of public health policy such as vaccinations, nutritional recommendations, air quality. It says like
It's like
pol-
NATO gave vaccines to some people, so IR is cool now, like.
no, it says that
justifies
like,
all like 100 years of
no,
atrocity.
the
before
writer
that the
evidence is
Hobson
not
evidence
saying that
describes.
like IR is perfect. It is saying that IR has changed over time.
This is like one change over time. How? Like we're
What?
still like U.S. backs
No, the
Israel.
whole-
We're still sending soldiers to Ukraine. Where's the reflexivity now?
No, the card is saying that like since like the 50s or the 60s and 70s, I think it cites, IR has developed over time to include more voices to like produce better scholarship. Like
I don't think it says that. But
it says policymakers incorporate findings of
let's go
sophisticated
down.
studies
Let's go down
on
to
a
the
variety of policy areas.
Livingston evidence. Like it's about interracial marriage. Why does this answer like any of our ontology claims?
Livingston?
Yeah, it says legalize interracial marriage, therefore progress is possible.
Well, you made a totalizing claim. We've given several ways that dispute that totalizing claim. We think that
Like,
any of those
how does
claims.
interracial marriage stop things like gratuitous violence and all that?
What,
Like
our
access to
argument
voting,
is
like
that-
libidinal drives. to
No,
be
our
in-
argument is that state policy can be effective. It says that like even if the state has produced racism or like structural racism exists, the state can be used to combat it.
Docs means. It's gonna be the K.
Frameworks in the webinar, so just have a separate sheet for that.
Oh. Is there an overview? Yeah, it's like 15 seconds. I'm gonna hold you to that.
Alright.
Give me a second to download.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Give me 1 second. Yeah. Okay, I'm good.
The AFF framework overjoined over the consequence high political plan enactment consistent to that French black trust not to subjectivity the right and said very hard will be very clear. This debate would not be well whether the USC should pass the federal jobs guarantee. There does not limit this debate to those parameters revealed. Those taken providing theory that speaks in structural world. 2C1, the framework debate least of space and flow will be the winner. 2C2 was the neutral debate. 2 warners. A is temporal blackmail spectators and large scale threats obscures the urgency of body suffering now. Urgency mostly constantly deferred to event to raise some legitimate concerns. Repeated tropes extinction now we raise the magnitude of suffering bodies to impact health is proven by all their arguments that we can ignore the past instances of hegemony and only focus on the 25% when there's 500 more examples of things that they've erased. B's bowel proximity voting negative draws attention to suffering now by insisting they can outweigh any longer. That's offensive because proximity outweighs magnitude. Your bowel can resolve the ratio body suffering now. Subpoint A with jurisdiction which alternative they have no agent to solve extinction, especially if we win a deceptive fiat and it does not spill out. They can't just win that knowledge itself is sufficient. The Waterson turns the ethical frames subpoint B argument because the slave is the objective vertical for validating all life. That's a conceded card from the 1 and C2. Consequently, Sonar playing a snake eating its own tail. The Tane, after the sacrificial Sonar's merely one contextual consideration, conflict with moral views, study sensitivity, endorse great numbers, negative views, as you told that equals a million active more turns, so that damage group has good turns the case. Studies prove their model and doctors can see black park in 16. It's all church judgment, associated equals themselves, and judgment, lower ability, integrity, more judgment failed. The final relationship between you told conservative very good. Faith in motion reform means there's scholarship. It's self-referential, ignores the endless accumulation of bodies, not deemed human enough in their genocidal calculus, which means that their research is set up to ignore consequences because these bodies don't show up. True regional alternativism means reversing the skills and privileging those most outside your sphere of influence. Approach this debate by prioritizing those impacts that are invoked by the academy. Now, we see 3 was the permutations you can draw. We could drop them, you still go negative because you can't remove models. Debate 1 and severance or intrinsic links proof. They not have to sever out of justifications to win competition of voter fair intellectual responsibility. Second is the flinch that we impact on humanism. We see affirmative relies on the career itself. 3 links for all. This adds all. Answer permutation double bind all the other permutation are answered above 1. The federal jobs guarantee is inevitable, which means they don't mean inherency or only the after is the link because a whole new economic system. Second, it's an infinitely regressive logic that perpetually denies existence for people in the global south. That's the ultimate evidence. Now extend the link here, extend the bioeconomics link. Gaggy, criticise how they frame the human subject to tether to economic phenomena. This the inseparability is what causes inequality, psychological war, climate change, and conflict because humans are valued solely off of their labor value. For example, workers in Congo use mutually reinforcing community tactics to provide full shelter, food, and preserve the environment because of spiritual intricacies, while African monarchs donated gold for the sole reason to care for the sick and care poor. Post-colonial occupation, the imposition of respectability and assimilation through European empires like Belgium and England caused the same people to violently denigrate and antagonize each other, going to war with each other, driven by the Hutu and Tutsi conflicts, where the Hutu committed genocide against the Tutsi because of assimilation from and recognition from the imperialist intensifying extraction civil conflicts. The affirmative similarly positioned respectful image of the human subject and enforced upon black is forced to undergo a structural adjustment and internalized into black, and that's to be dignified enough to be integrated into civil society. We have quotes. I'll quote there first, and that is the Luckham 17 evidence. It says that lots of U.S. hegemony, quote, violates the rights, dignity, and safety of supposed perpetrators, unquote, which makes it so that blackness has to undergo a structural adjustment to receive these same benefits of dignity and safety and look American enough to assimilate to their terms of civil society. That's violent because they'll just say that their suffering doesn't happen through their dominant frame of hegemony. Next, Oppenheimer says, quote, black and Latino Americans are in a struggle for more dignity, unquote, which frames that the condition that black and brown people should strive towards assimilating to civil society is violent, which is violent because of plastic inclusion and psychological violence. It frames that the only way for human to confer dignity is through labor. Secondary exploitation. When see Oppenheimer says the U.S. is, quote, aiming to, quote, take advantage in expensive labor. That's why we're in Bangladesh. That's why we're looking at Africa. The plan is able to afford make the conditions better for disgruntled workers at home by exporting cheap, untenable labor abroad. That celebrates anti-black epistemology of unequal exchange that views labors of less developed countries as worthless compared to the benefits of American citizens that can reap and legitimize U.S. hegemony, which only gets used to exploit more people in the foreign to impact the level of subjectivity, which outweighs on proximity. There's 2 implications to this. First is violent. It pathologizes black people who don't work is not worthy of value, or who are not dignified enough to be not worthy of value, which makes them less than human subjects and exacerbates tropes of black cultures. Primitive criminal. Second, turns case and the framework often, insofar as all of it is premised upon humanism and hegemony. If we win that, the underlying structure of humanism makes all of their impacts inevitable. liberal, then you vote negative on presumption. Now answer 2C3 with the theory power argument. Slavery should be theorized maximum capacity. There's 3 reasons. 1 is the 3 pillars, no counter explanation, 500 plus years of alienation, that's African culture, ties, groceries, responsibility, utility, and general dishonor that reduce the African subject of black commodity and stare agency. Second is to all these same matters. Even if contingency is true, we shall obey the blacks ontological to prevent white pacification, anything else means that they can subvert responsibility of claiming the terroristic clouds are not that bad, which is a bad model debate. 3 is the liberty economy, humans, relations with slaves, our tenacious victory to logic, affiliate, AIDS, routines, response, Chico, and politics, political concession, black people share benefits, but no, ignore the review average, not black people, hate black people, do so, cost many people, and tell the big, but it's more important, the economy, we still the economy says that, proportion, US incarcerated, adverse impact of financial security, fear of black people, terms of political, unmean cost of analysis, power, versus crackling, conditioning, identical against black people, crime scene 100 times more threatening, they're also victim of phobia, police don't get the correct civil society, welfare, consumables to outweigh many examples, 9, 6, 8, 6, being near physiological center, non-directive tobacco reactions that demand transparency, affirmation, may phobia, de facto, not teacher, version 19. When it's a phenomenological level function, touch age, to when depend on agency, black near physiology, affirmation, and which you get organized affirmation, recognition of people's first area, goes for affirmation races, they operate on unconscious influence of restaurant, calculation, object, money, they cannot be reasoned within your physiology could account for oneness and structure, parasitically dependent on black African such as absolute integration produces pleasure by human subjects. Next, the Dawson evidence, all answers to point A. 1, link to Afro-pessimism doesn't disavow movements themselves, but movements are an idea continues through institutions. Those movements inevitably result in parasitic liberal investments that collapse the movement in on itself and results in the spirit murder of black people. Second is new link, they trope black activists for liberal appeals for the battle, which co-ops black energy pulverized black non-being as an object to be influenced in your plan. That's the second evidence. Next, point 2 was the bull evidence. Making anti-blackness fungible to policy choices ignores the de facto implementation and how the movement encounter between Africans and Europeans caused a violent denigration of the African subject. 1, change to sign equal progress gains in society, merely upgrade slavery to Jim Crow to mass incarceration, all prove the war on drugs to election of Trump, prove that there's only structural upgrades to the system of slavery, making it more insidious. We'll answer all of their arguments below. 1, with Loving v. Virginia, it's just an example of philia where white women sought out black women and just allowed for rape to be legalized against black women. The Fair Housing Act first led to white flight in 1968 when it was passed, which forced racially segregated Marxists. Today, the Voting Rights Act, just having access to vote does not mean you have political agency. States still make a living hell to vote felonies. Misdemeanors means that you can't vote, and if you're arrested, you have to pay a fine, which requires a bank account ID, which tries to disproportionate black citizens. Proof of the Stacey Abrams election in Georgia, the Fair Sentencing Act makes no sense when the Chico evidence specifically writes the disparities in sentencing between crack and cocaine, despite them being the same substance. The lip says that the part is not competitive with the alternative. We're not allies with the alternative. Is that the modes of humanity social life can only exist outside of civil society movement. Movements of the card sites such as Vietnam are always met with violence and then later weaponized as progress. Next to the Hoodus evidence. 1, Hoodus is non-verifiable, only so been used as testable metrics like neurobiological studies. The scientific method, well, there refutes a universal archetype, is that assertion at best. Third, it's a misreading for known defensive labor theory of value through social construction, which is just wrong. And Hoodus relies on the assumption that social structure determines or drives, but concedes that neither can be solved on a social level, which means it's so deeply entrenched it might as well be ontological. Now the Sakar and Van Bavel evidence all answered here across by Chico and Verge from above. The liberty economy is objective and civil society guarantees these habits. Their evidence is based on the worst theorization of context. I felt this possible, which ignores interpersonal modes of gratuity like microaggressions. Now the IR stuff, no one uses their silly IR theories. You think Walton, Mearsheimer take that shit seriously? No, they have different metrics and these extinction impacts in debate. You can classify the car evidence will show be exit on the scenario planning stuff. In the one in R, they said federal jobs guarantee originates from black scholarship. No, 1, it's homogenizing, which to say all black scholarship is the same. Second, Afro-pessimism does not think that the federal jobs guarantee is good, which is all of the above stuff. They said non-black pest is a voting issue. No, it links to them because they were porn tripping black people out there, but not us because we made descriptive claims, not prescriptive claims. The next argument, yeah, I'm good for price.
It's just the old.
I thought this. Okay, let's talk about the links. You said the plan exports labor abroad. How?
Yeah, we've quoted lines from your evidence that says you export cheap, non-tenable labor abroad.
Sure, how?
Sure. So the federal jobs guarantee requires funding. We think that the global economy is connected in a way that it always expropriates the the capital from
Okay,
countries
we
of the global
deficit
south.
spend. Why does that not solve?
Because that still had that's obviously still going to have an effect on the economy.
No, we just print money.
Yeah, sure. That causes inflation, which causes the global economy.
Inflation causes us to export labor. How?
Sure. So several things. First, I took an economics class, so I'm good at this. First,
Doesn't seem like it.
Sure.
Go ahead.
if you draw like all the aggregate demand graphs and everything, you'll find that the supply increases, which means that if that supply increases,
Okay.
you need more like capital from countries in the global south, which means you extract more from those countries.
That didn't make sense, but that's fine. Okay,
Yeah, like you gotta look
let's
at the
talk
graphs
about-
for it to make sense. Like I promise like
I'm thinking
aggregate
micro
demand and
too.
aggregate
Okay,
supply are
let's
correlated.
talk about
Like,
the
it
gain
increases
evidence.
aggregate supply.
The gain evidence, how do we only value black individuals for their labor?
Yeah, we've quoted lines about dignity and labor conferring what a dignified
Sure, but the
human
gain,
subject
the
looks
gain
like.
evidence is about the status quo. It says that current systems of power operate through like having to make money. How do we
That's
not?
That's not the line I quoted.
What was the line you quoted?
Let me find it. I quoted Luckham 17.
Okay, sure, like.
It
still,
says,
can
it
you explain-
uniquely says that the loss of US hegemony causes perpetrators to violate the dignity of like American subjects. We think that's like a unique
Sure,
impact.
so do you
of
think
this.
like violating dignity is good? Like, what?
We think that the frame
how's
of
this a link?
dignity that like the Luckham evidence is posited in terms of like it structurally
Sure,
excludes
okay,
black people.
should
is
black
bad.
people have dignity?
We think that the question of like structurally adjusting to like white dignity is bad.
Okay, sure, that's fine. Let's talk about like the welfare queen, kind of evidence, I believe it was.
The Sullivan evidence.
Yeah, sure.
Did you read it?
Yeah. I read the first Sullivan evidence. I didn't read the second one.
Is this in the doc?
It should be.
Yeah,
Oh,
It should be a gratuitous response.
is that Chico?
no, it was Chico.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
missed it up. Yeah. You're right.
Anyway, how do we not like solve this by like moving the welfare state away from like kind of non-universal toward universality?
That's like misunderstanding the point of the card. The card is saying the political economy is less objective than the libidinal economy. It says that it cites like different examples of like despite like cost-benefit analysis that like it would have been cheaper or like more
Sure,
profitable
but we
to do
got
certain
rid
things.
of
The fear
we got
black
rid of
people
targeted
causes it.
programs that disproportionately hurt black people who cannot like get those programs toward a universal program. How does that not
The
solve that?
libidinal economy frames the direction of all your implementation. The Verge evidence says
Okay.
that anti-blackness operates de facto and not de jure, which means the implementation is always anti.
Okay.
Yeah, just and yeah, like basically just yeah.
5 seconds.
Yeah.
Wait, real quick, we're gonna take round 805. Did you read the Con 18 evidence?
Yeah, both. I read everything other than the last two parts of the doc. Oh, and the indicts discard and which was 2 parts.
Wait, so you did read Con?
Yeah, Kahane.
No, Con.
Oh no, not
The
Kahane.
indicts. Yeah,
No,
you
no.
read Sullivan. Okay, cool. 748.
No, I did not.
Oh. No,
Yeah.
you read Chico.
Yeah, I read Chico. My bad. I didn't make the next.
Okay. You're good. Okay.
If you want, I can send them my copy.
No.
Okay, should be sent. We know you get it. Order is the K where the 2 and C left off, and frame.
Okay.
But you said there's
Oh,
a
I put on the wrong chain, my bad. The alternative is active passivity. You should refuse to participate in and instead embrace blackness through active passivity that conceded uniqueness arguments of how blackness interacts with the political trend. Voting negative dwells within this incoherence of refusal of the astral opportunity because it rejuvenates an anti-black research world. You vote not after the other hands off the wheel. You might not know exactly what the trajectory the alternative generates, but you know that it refuses anti-blackness here in the wake of debate. Now, this is a non-black positive voting issue. Cross-apply subpoints 1 and 2 from the 2 and C. 3 is that alternative non-black people never engaging with black scholarship is worse because that can only reproduce anti-blackness because of not knowing about the literature framework. Counterinterpretation. The one he sees an object as study the role of the negative should be to disprove the scholarship produced by the object, specifically intrinsic advantages and insolvency. The role of the judges to prioritize anti-ethics, which moots Keynesian backs up the grammar of the one he sees justifications are anti-black. That means they can weigh the plan if and only if they prove their justifications are anti-black. This is predictable. Our links to the plan and justifications were distinct from representation because their offensive reason to vote out that they have chosen. They can weigh their scholarship as offense against ours, which means it's not a you win, you lose, and provides a clear win condition and closure to decide at the level of interpretation. In the pursuit of consensus or equity, white supremacy in this activity relies on stasis points in orbit, resolutional readings as hegemonic modalities of enclosure. That's Lee 21. All communication requires interpretation. All educational research is interpretive. Tensions in academic institutions are divided in ideological camps to wage interpretive battles over race, hermeneutics, instruction, interpreters, non-conscious presupposition, control over interpretation, exchange of wide racial balance, regulates interpretive process, ensuring media to support that dominant groups of legitimize seemingly open dialogue becomes sense of repression due to pursuit of consensus over the desire to interrogate racial ideologies, consider hierarchies, instead of attempts to discard work by questioning implementation of methods and invoking norms of methodology concedes a deeper problem around interpretation, maintaining white supremacy through methodological silence and communication distorted by white supremacist social structure, discursive exchanges and everyday forms of violence. Now, fairness 1, nothing about weighing that is key to fairness. Clash ways you can weigh that is an intellectual strategy, but we get to learn the links off the epistemology of the 1AC solves the moving offense, which is only internal like second. It's inevitable speed, resource differences, funding, etc. Game implosion because unfairness is inevitable. Third is reasonability. They get infinite chess, infinite prep and act choice and adaptive S, which is a perennial generic, especially on a top with infinite minute acts. Fourth is the pathology just said moving the 1AC is good. It holds them accountable for anti-black models of debate. Anything else teaches them that loopholes out of racist discourse by weighing the overall consequences enables microaggressions. 5 is the theology just said St. Mark's invested a framework to preserve an iconic vision and prepare debaters with ideal advocates for repetition, which is a procedure that's indicative of anti-black respectability. Politics do not weigh the cases of middle ground for the sake of engagement. The point of the critique is to make them uncomfortable. The reciprocity and the way the consequences sideline accountability for community grievances because those things can never outweigh the harms outside which is a voting issue. There's psychological warfare that precludes meaningful participation. Now, the Glowacki, the fairness is a burnout evidence. 1 is by college debaters who have a flawed study and only interview policy debaters, which creates an echo chamber. 2nd is correlation does not equal causation, which the experiment does not control for. 3rd is crossed by the predictability of defense above we when unpredictable, then there's no burnout. And 4, ask yourself why preserve a fair model of debate if it's anti-black. Warren 11. Students underestimate sharp forces which carry racial disparities. One of students use a relatively privileged backgrounds as they experience a temporary bout of unfairness in the game, which creates opportunity to change perspective. The game is creating opportunities for lower students experience unfairness, competitive fairness. Assumes the world is fair, they experience a good player losing on unfair game shades, cognitive distance that is our teaching moment. Now, Clash 1, concept matters, link controls the terminal direction of Clash because they debate shapes subjectivity, which will be below. 2nd is its inevitable process. CPs and hidden A spec inevitably shift the debate away from plan focus. 3rd is plan focus is worse. You root the 1AC by only weighing the 8-second plan shift rather than the whole 8 minutes. 4th, act choice solves. We're coding your 1AC and impact turning it. Everything in the 1AC was your choice to include, therefore is fair game to link to. 6 is 5 is that 2AC cross 6 is embarrassing. They can't explain why I are reflexive or why debating it is good other than maybe the state could be decent one time when they legalized interracial marriage. Their model gives racist debaters blank checks to say racist shit because, quote, Clash is content neutral and they view microaggressions and anti-blackness as arguments on a flow sheet rather than actual things, which means you reject their model on face and it's a voting issue. And 7, your model is worse. We've read one critique that's been around for the past 2 decades, but teams under interpret multiple process counterplans that compete off of infinite things and conditional multiply counterplans which steal case offense and move the 1AC more, but floating picks are not our interpretation, which means we're more fair and have more class. They said even if hedge bad, debating policies around it is important. This is contingent on teaching people hedge is bad, not good, which means it's not offense for them. Now, subjectivity, debates are subjectivity or battle matters. A, no counter explanation for 20 years of critical debate evolution and shift of the debate to more left-skewed arguments, and B's testing epistemology keys 919. Knowledge is produced through epistemological norms and general terms of what is possible to say, do, and yes, our awarenesses and background knowledge that we produce is adequate, responding to contemporary ethical, political challenges, and necessary reconstructing and reinterpreting the ground of questions themselves. C, science, repetition, compulsion, neologically verified. I'm not going to read the Ingram card, but cross-supply. All the liberal economy warrants D's deterrence that competitive incentives influence what we defend, magnified by the prep we do for tournaments, and they repetitively lose over and over reading race argument. That shapes subjectivity and research practices because people want to win. E, it's not a yes or no question. Refuse to reject on the LD because the ballot can't top it is a drop in the bucket logic, which is wrong. Next, suspended futurity. They said the model for suspended futurity for those being subject to domestic war. Solvent 17. Black Americans need to taxation strategies, expanding beyond liberal fantasy school optimism and keeping black people focused on everything that undercuts their flourishing with evidence from health sciences that admits black people damage their sex, somatic health, and strategies of flourishing and anti-black votership balance fatigue is linking particularly to depression, tension, generalizing anxiety disorder, and African Americans, high risk of hypertension, cardiovascular disease, preterm birth rates, and infant mortality, racism kills.
like framework, straight down, and then okay.
Yeah. On case, are you answering the like impact framing?
Oh, extinction outweighs stuff.
Yeah.
I think no, that'll just be on.
Okay.
I'll sign it.
Okay.
That's like right after frame.
Okay, that's where I have it too. Just wondering. I'm good with it.
Case outweighs, you know hegemony solves extinction, which means that any risk or right on any other portion of the link debate and framework means you're automatically voting negative because it just solves escalatory hotspots internationally, which means that I don't have to do a lot of work here because they've conceded all of it. Framework. The balance to win the desirable is the one you see the rule of the negatives to dispute, the one you see this middle ground solves are offense because they get case links to reps, they just need to dispute, not question the one you see the basis of mitigation, which means we get to weigh the AFF2 impacts A fairness, bring the one you see unfairly boost the negative by shifting the negative burden, research burden away from the AFF preps, center all the rest to question fairness outweighs one intrinsic of the basic game, the proof by following below if you drop arguments and post-running RFDs that don't affect the debate competition overgoes everything we do, which precludes a prior ethical question, second moral theory, the impacts are bad because of lack of activity, third participation, no incentive to access research that benefits and a gain for no offense and negative win a link, that outweighs the AFF benefits, fifth, fairness controls logic information because people will attribute the losses unfairness and internalize those losses, hitting answers to the K instead, proving justifications aren't black still aren't anti-black still link screens we don't get offense. Yes, it is you link you lose because we can't weigh positive reps against negative ones. Enclosure dissent is wrong. We still offer interpretation, but we get the AV. Yes, fairness numbers are procedural mad arguments use the theory. Yes, but now don't assume the competitive game debate only our evidence says they have no studies, but we do. Fairness is good for everyone. And Warren's talking about black debaters reading past, not Coppell and KB is class. In order to obtain the substance of the K expert out of debate, we have to test with class. Others debate defaults with choose so nothing ever gets out. Only class of the implementation is all because we can never predict what tiny philosophical issue never use the K. The one you see most often flex impact because individual debates do not change. That's all causes. Now way too many rounds happen at once and it's not possible. But long-term class with single stages can content is irrelevant. Drop the show evidence which says that people who don't change their minds just get smarter. They can't no link. They remove clashing with the political strategy of the avatars. No method gets co-opted. Scenario planning is which actually just drop the scope of our case which says the scenario planning for geopolitics saves lives. Debate doesn't shape activities disproved by every top team research and debate the K losing over and over if it fails. Proved by us, NBA, Peninsula, BG, Lhasa, and everyone else. Sullivan is wrong. Oh, Sunny said after, but K say one progress is possible, which I'll answer for reference. Second is that solidarity against racism is good. I'll answer that for reference. And cross-racial solidarity to deal with racism is not problematic. Industry highlights is good forces teams to only introduce evidence they can defend. That's best for class and research. And black optimism is good and linked to satisfaction. Best in new study lead 22 in a cohort of socioeconomic diverse African Americans, men and women. Optimism related to 50% of the lower retirement rates. Control the frequent founders. One study 97,252 women. Higher optimism related to 32% of the lower retirement rates. Individuals with higher optimism fatigue good health benefits. Strong social networks. And optimism also been linked with life satisfaction. I don't have time. Does anybody have it?
Well,
248.
250.
No, I just okay. Extinction. Extinction must outweigh any alternative genocide which filters offense because it's the impact term without unique district. The alternative one is jurisdiction. Nuclear war is a uniquely painful event that causes mass suffering to billions and prevents trillions of future generations from experiencing value. Even if land is not the most important thing, we access quantitatively large magnitude of suffering, segments, ethics. We can only have the right ones if we're alive, which sort of turns all the rest of the arguments like different condition to value, pleasure, and pain. Meaning that if the right try to be able to figure it out, group the obscurity of out proximity stuff, we do not cause we're to go in here or out there, but you should give us the out consequences. It's good because any alternative says that some lives more than others, which sort of feedback to the racist logic, no link to military reform. That's not us. The ontology self do it here on anti-blackness is inscribed in political nihilism is bad, which is linked to the cruel optimism. Change is possible. One racism condition doesn't transcend human choice. That's our good evidence. Second, reject pests. It's your century denies the success of previous black activists or Dawson evidence indicates the homogenizing nature of African Americans is all of them being socially dead, which is the link to the card. Mischaracterizes depression of non-African colonized subjects and racist work shows that resulting in black liberation. Third is sort of every instance of violence and every example they said are deconstructed to material and public policy. Racism was created by policy. It can only be destroyed by policy. Society stigmatizes people through laws and entrenched white supremacy. Means political engagement is worthwhile. Fourth, it rejects social death framing. Drop that Lipson says be black people have a kind of dehumanization with rehumanization, which is drop warrant to the termination of existing racist policies and traditions to do democratic practices and institutions is good. Fifth, is history disputes sexualizing ontological and homogenizes all social differences with black society, reduces it to a single position of abjection. To see examples where great and set in the body of sort of empirics like the Voting Rights Act, the Lovely Virginia, etc., which their answers were just that they weren't monumental or that they weren't instances of progress. They just mischaracterized every single example. Our argument is that they liberated and sort of
have been steps toward sort of a black freedom, which is the net better. This is Carl Van Bevel and whose evidence are great, and it proves that they've sort of confused habitual racism with instinctual racism, which sort of answers their liberal economy evidence, because it's not instinctual, it's habitual, i.e. growing up in a racist household obviously sort of would make you habitually racist, but that doesn't make you instinctually racist, which sort of outweighs framing issues that none of their examples about middle class alienation rise to the level of ontological claim. You should prefer our theorization because it's the only way to reconcile competing examples. And blackness is not a fate of conflict but disrupted through contingent actions. Even one example of progress disproves of political fatalism and demonstrates progress. There's no link to this sort of critique. It's obviously going to boil down to a framework K, but our bank's evidence is great since their only answer to it was that we shouldn't totalize black scholarship, but that's exactly what they have done in this debate by totalizing black progress is impossible. Our evidence says that materially the app sort of solves problems with involuntary unemployment, low compensation levels, and discrimination from scholars like C.D. Alexander. We don't extract labor abroad. That was cross-legs. It was embarrassing for them. We know the Oppenheimer evidence is we sort of stop black suffering in the first place. Their theory is worse because they create fatalism that emphasizes pragmatic acts and positions that operates within the law while generally reducing any black violence. This is a tactic of conservatives, which means that you shouldn't theorize slavery's maximum captivity. It's net worse. Also, non-black press is a voter. They didn't spend a lot of time here. King and Wilderson indicate that Coppell and K is literally just non-black people who play with blackness. Their only answer was sort of that it links to us. Obviously not true because we haven't sort of said that we haven't sort of theorized black death in flesh as sort of progress is impossible, but it's uniquely valid because they've sort of used it to win a ballot.
10 minutes, 39. Oh wait, 9:50.
Wait, did y'all get the card? Did you send it?
Yeah, I said that. Oh wait, I didn't send out the other card.
Wait, I have it on.
That's fine.
Can you get that too? We have time. Can you just put on the flow? Yeah, just send out messages. basically just the same order as the 1 AR, except the links at the top.
Okay.
Anyone not good?
Good.
No. Okay.
There's no way the 1 AR was that good and still missed a 3-minute link in the 2 and see this. It's game over. You're voting negative for the body economics link. Quick draw lunch with the 1 see that linked exactly what Bad Gag says the logic responsible for all 21st century disasters. Read the card of the endless around the humanist paradigm. It calls responsibility to one of the Western man to figure that in of its essence, inexplicably tied and sustained through mimetic bonds against the climate upon the underclass and against racialized bodies. We've criticized their analytical labor. Don't make me reinvent the wheel when the 2 and 2 is 3 minutes and the 1 AR just answered with one argument that not and grappled the crux of the link. The only response was that they deficit spend so they don't affect the global south, but I've quoted their evidence. It specifically says they exploit countries like Bangladesh. It's inevitable that the expansion of the U.S. economy as per their 1AC scenario requires more extraction to the global south because it means more workers and more productivity in the economy, which obviously requires exportation out there. That creates more aggregate demand, which increases aggregate supply to the right. Search of the graph, I'm right. The Congolese upper proves that the analytical labor as dignity makes debaters violent towards one another. And then a search for dignity and structural assimilation. Second, even if you choose to weigh the plan and their impact is for the middle ground framework, Gaggy, straight turns and solvency because humanist paradigms are exactly what caused violence in the first place. That means you vote negative on presumption even if you weigh the plan because we'll solve for extinction finally under U.S. hegemony argument is sutured to humanism and only recreates its impact to the core of their assumptions. Climate change, inequality, and the warfare are all sutured to the humanist and biocentric conception of the man voting affirmative green lights as humanist paradigm, which is where negation gets uniqueness. Go down to framework to one states obviously they get away the benefits of one scholarship, but the negation disprove the scholarship produced debates not just game and space of care research based political orientation dropped anti-ethics, which means you don't weigh a middle ground as the Wooderson 11 evidence from the 1 and C, which means our modern debate is a prior question to weighing the act because it's sutured to understanding the slave, which is what careers all impact. That was my answer to the jurisdiction and more imperative arguments on extinction. It was flat drop means there's no way to engage or evaluate impact on the model without being anti-black because it's sutured to the slave. Now the fairness arguments they said we link to representations and then we link to justification, drop justification, predictable reps aren't which solves clash of fairness, but they said that shifts the neg burden away from the plan. No, our links are to justification and core epistemological themes of the 1 C, which you chose to put in the 1 C, which means we saw better. They said debate it's a game over codes, everything way. Answer that above, drop the one in an argument about the claiming clash of content user justifies racism and microaggressions within debate, which is an independent reason to vote negative, which I'll extend below. Fairness controls of the formation wrong. Drop that repetitively losing changes research practice, even if debate doesn't shape the pretending it does. Is good to hold us to higher ethical standards. They'll never say that individual rounds don't solve, but if we win that a framework model is good, you should weigh this round as an instance or under a model. That's the only way of shifting away from this point of equilibrium. Now the not predictable links are made one yes is predictable crossed by above. We're linking to stuff you put in the 1 C, your worst of clash teams under you. Your model read 15 off process compliance that steal the app consider argument more than or one critique in this one round of more which is more predictable because you only have to answer one argument framing issue that they dropped is it's not a yes or no question. 1% risk debate shapes subjectivity always 1% more clash of modern debate you vote negative because they dropped ethics of this 1% anti-black you rejected. They say all causes no debate is the all causes you go to camp for 7 weeks, spend more time at tournaments than with friends and more time prep more than time. It's also the most in-depth activity. This is not false. Well, yes, it is repetition, compulsion, liminal drives are neurologically verified. You cannot say you knew about Afropessimism before you joined debate second year. Just as non-false, well, there's no way to measure whether debate enters debating nuclear policy. Go on to change foreign policy or learn skills. Zeus says no subject to be wrong. No, it says people can learn from fiat by what impact or fiat with the solvent evidence. Specifically says that minority debater or still learn which proves that K debater is not unique to their modern debate. They said losing over fails. All new examples are true. Aidenbar kept losing to Coppell DR while going for affirmation. They changed and caught a new critique under the Viego case, which proves that they do engage in their mode of politics. I answered every single one of their framework arguments, which means that I don't have to win 100% risk of the subjectivity offense because it's not a yes or no question. Now the ontology debate, the problem with the 1 AR is that it shadow extends the ontology argument without grappling with 2 and C explanation, which means you hold a high the threshold for the 2 AR risk of ontology outweighs even if they win debate shape subjectivity because they've dropped that. It forces debaters to go out there. Now I'm going to extend the solvent evidence. This card cites warning experimental procedure proving that focus on state-based politics on the body system and intensified psychological violence and literally results in generous anxiety and heart attacks, which outweighs the defense you should frame this is the fact that fiat does not teach us how to organize with, which is the start of the linkage to full first debate. Simply a game is wrong because they incentivize people to read psychologically violent arguments. Second, that their usage of fiat results in hope. That was all the one of our arguments out there. Re-highlights are terrible. First card is shit. It's just that we shouldn't ignore white people's health. Now
the progress as possible. Second card is even more shit. We agree that compounding risk is good, so reject the model. Third card is somehow even worse. Literally right under the highlight line says hope is bad. First black health, not ontology. You're gonna say did not actually make any warrants. We've answered every single example. It's a structural upgrade to the system of slavery. The link proper answers this argument because it says that every move towards we are thinking that Blackton's contingent is really Blackton's undergoing a structural adjustment, which means all of their examples are found there. Next argument on the liberal economy, they just said psychoanalysis is not possible, but we have specifically said that the liberal economy is biological. They said rehumanization can solve dehumanization, but that's just a structural adjustment. Blackton's use this to assimilate to what white people want them to look like.
Okay. 233? 230?
I think it was
208.
208. Okay. Fair enough. Just right. I know.
Bro, Australia's one. 214 to 3.
My friends are watching it right now.
They need 27 now because of all the stuff.
Okay. The orders like AFK, or yeah, AFK.
Just go for it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The link isn't at the top. The Tournor has dropped that non-black pessimism as a voting issue. It trivializes the struggles of black debaters in order to get the ballot, and it labels black individuals as socially dead, which is objectively violent towards black debaters in the activity. It is worse than every impact the Tournor has gone for because it's objectively violent towards black debaters in the activity. It is an impact that is consistent throughout the debate, and it was explicitly flagged as a voting issue, not the bottom of the one error, but the Tournor has flag dropped it, which means you cannot give them any cross applications from the block to the 2 error because they have not made them in the debate. It was explicitly flagged as a voting issue. It turns the critique because it means that they devalue the struggles of black debaters in the community and prevent it from actually communicating their struggles within the activity. Prefer scholars who are actually black rather than 2 high school debaters who are not. Coppell MK does not have the authority to make totalizing assertions about black people in debate as an activity. Case being dropped means that any risk that we're right about framework means you're voting affirmative, especially true because they cannot have any framework offense when we're just winning that. Even if subject formation is true, it's worse because non-black pessimism is bad. The K. Yeah, hegemony causes extinction, etc. The middle ground in term solution is best for both sides. You link, you lose, puts the AF terminally behind. By giving the AF only defense, their James Terp removes the 1AC from the debate, which reverses and overcorrects their claims about bias. We solve all their evidence offense by allowing them to read reps links and weigh the impact of the K against the AF. We just get the 1AC there in terms of justifications, which was really blown up in the 2NR. Still links to all our offense. First, you link, you lose, give the AF no offense. The 1AC is prepared to defend its justification, but it needs to be able to weigh them to do so. Second, it disallows weighing positive reps, which boils the debate down to solely link defense, because we can only say that we weren't anti-black. It deletes any AF win condition because we can only read defense, but we have no offense. Third is infinitely regressive. They debate they might have a link to our justifications, but the next they can just get a link to a phrase in the tag. Only our model sets a clear burden for both sides. Fairness outweighs in terms of their offense versus intrinsic good. Fairness is a procedural question that can be solved by the ballot, and they agree that fairness matters, proved by how they follow speech and prep times, go for dropped arguments, and agree to debate their side. Fairness is key to preserve the debate as an activity, maximize what we get out of debate by iterative testing. I'm not going for clash as an impact, but it link turns their offense. It can only be accessed if both sides have an equal opportunity to prepare and respond to arguments, which makes it a prerequisite to their education impacts. Because if they're right about the K, we'll come to agree with it, but that's only possible if we can test it whether it's actually true instead of having a monologue. Second is moral theory. They've conceded that fairness turns their offense because racism is only bad because it's unfair to black people. Anti-blackness is constrained by fairness, which means fairness is an arbitrary ethical obligation. Third is burnout straight dropped. Only we have a comparative evidence from studies that concludes that procedural fairness is integral to community participation in debate as an activity. Their model collapses debate, which is an external impact. Even if they win that debate, shapes subjectivities, their model is worse for debate. It turns out their critique because their interpretation alienates minority debaters and creates an untenable prep burden for smaller teams, which turns the arguments about MBA, etc. Side bias is irrelevant if we don't have the AF to defend. In the last speech anyway, speed differences, coaching, etc. AF uniqueness, because they only exacerbate structural unfairness by making debate procedural unfair. Makes teams like NBA break a new K every round. The pathology here, the microaggression stuff is wrong. The 1NC can still go for links to representations, but the AF should be able to defend itself. And judge truly solves if something bad truly happened in a debate. The ground would be stopped. Second, internalization turns this, which they've dropped internalization, that debaters will just cut better arguments to answer that. Third, we solve better by creating a model with portable skills to prevent these issues in the real world, and we're just winning that their model is worse because of burnout, which means that we really don't have to do much work here. Their subjectivity offense is wrong. First, debate fails as a search for the truth because teams constantly contradict themselves due to the competitive nature of debate. We say hedge bad, hedge good in back-to-back rounds, and our offense turns subjectivity because of internalization. If we lose, this debate will do more drills and come more cards and give the reading on the same supposedly unethical arguments that they're critiquing right now, which only further violence because they've introduced their K in an inherently competitive environment, which requires us to argue against it, which makes us less likely to agree with them, not more likely the extinction stuff is a good frame of debate. 2 reasons. A, it still allows the night to contest the AF's internal links to disprove extinction, which turns education, because the only way their theory can spell out is if they have the skills to contest alternative proposals in the real world. B, anything else is illogical. We should be able to weigh positive reps against negative reps, which was above. Ontology is wrong. It's decisively wrong after the 2NR. Your out is that they dropped optimism is good, even if they're right. We should frame the world through it. One of our leads, the best and newest study, and says optimism is related to 15% lower mortality rates. A study with 97,000 women find higher optimism related to a 33% lower mortality rate, often correlated to good health and stronger social networks, which is not better than fatalism, even if they win. The rest of ontology being optimistic is not better, regardless of the truth of ontology. Second, their framing is wrong and fails. Our DOS evidence is specific to half or index to the theory by saying pessimism homogenizes notions of progress. Good.